Hamas terrorists reportedly allowing some foreign passport holders to leave Gaza and cross into Egypt. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken telling Congress that roughly 400 Americans and their families are stuck in the war-torn region still. The White House is slamming the GOP's proposed Israel aid bill, saying that leaving out humanitarian aid to Gaza is a, quote, moral and strategic imperative. Joining me right now is Indiana Senator Mike Braun. He's a member of the Senate Budget Committee. Senator, thanks very much for being here. You recently put out a statement declaring the United States should not send another dollar to Gaza until every American hostage is safely back on U.S. soil. Tell us more about that and where you believe this package is going.
So it's clear that anything we send there ends up in the hands of Hamas. Some of the stuff that we've already sent there, you've found it on dead Hamas individuals as the Israelis have gone in there to try to root them out. So don't be naive. Iran is orchestrating it, and this money that we send there gets to the wrong places. So I'm not sure what's going to happen because there are enough Republicans generally going along with what Schumer would want to do here in the Senate. Just the packages that we're considering, I want them to all be separate. That's how you get things into the wrong place when you try to combine too much of it into one. But it's very clear, anything that goes into Gaza ends up being in the hands, most of it, of Hamas. So we got to be we need to be straightforward there.
Yeah.
The more we send, the more you're going to enable them, and they're using hostages to shield themselves.
Yeah.
All this stuff is going to be a hard rooting out. The Israelis are doing it now. The fact that they were able to get so many Israelis, Americans involved in this, it's going to make it a treacherous navigation from here forward.
Yeah, so is this just a dead end? Because the White House has already said that President Biden is going to veto the House's standalone $14.3 billion Israel funding bill. It's trying to take money from the IRS. Of course, the president wants 87,000 IRS agents. A senior fellow at the Manhattan Institute giving this suggestion on X: pay for the $14 billion Israel aid by taxing university endowments. Make Harvard, Cornell, George Washington, and all the other universities excusing the Hamas atrocities and targeting Jewish students, make them pay to defend Israel. Where will the money come from, Senator, and what is going to happen with this aid to Israel? Is it a dead end since the president's going to veto it?
Very clear where the money has come from for the 5 years I have been here. From our kids and grandkids, because we borrowed every penny of it. This is refreshing. I have never seen a major piece of legislation come out of either chamber that had a clear pay for. Generally, you never talk about that. That's why we're borrowing $1 trillion every 6 months now. It was $1 trillion once a year when I got here 5 years ago. That is refreshing.
Yeah.
And when you spend $80 billion to add IRS agents, I think you could spare $14 billion of it. That's going to go mostly after business owners at the lower level, not the big fat cats that they want to go after anyway.
Yeah.
So yes, pay for it, and it's refreshing that he did it. Of course, everybody here laughs that off.
Yeah, I understand that, but I mean, how much at fault is the Senate in terms of where we are with this stalemate on funding the government? Because every time I speak with your colleagues on the House, they say, look at the Senate. They haven't done anything. They haven't brought a bill to the floor. They say we're getting these appropriations bills done. So what about that?
No one is getting anything really done here on time. You got to remember, the fiscal year ended over a month ago. We should have been on this stuff early into the fiscal year, which starts on October 1st, but that's the pattern. The more you delay it, Maria, the more you can do all these things behind closed doors. And the White House and Schumer aren't going to be interested in anything that comes from the House. It's going to be the same old, but the issue that we need to keep in mind is it generally takes 10 to 12 Republicans to get this stuff across the finish line. That is why are we enabling them? And then it gets to be a tricky issue of where defense, I think, is the most important thing we do here, but it should be doing audits and budgets as well. They waste as much money there as we do across. That's the unholy alliance that drives the place. But the White House and Schumer are going to have no interest in what the House of Representatives brings forth.
Well, I just spoke with your colleague Bill Cassidy, and I'm going to ask you the same question that I asked him, because everywhere you look, there's another fire to put out in this country. I think now, at this point, most people will agree the country has declined pretty seriously in the last 2.5 years. Do you agree with that?
100%. Pre-COVID, the peace and prosperity we had under the Trump administration is so easy to measure on every variable since then. It is chaos, all self-imposed.
So how come,
you mentioned it earlier.
How come the House is so much more aggressive on holding Joe Biden to account? Whether it's an ineptitude on policy and a dereliction of duty at the border or potential corruption and bribery, what are you going to do about it as an elected official?
Well, number one, we don't control the floor action, so you're going to not have anything coming up to hold Biden accountable with Schumer holding the reins. I would beg the question, though, when we do have it, what will we do?
Good question.
You're not going to get one Democrat to come along with something Republicans want to do. They always get 10 to 12 on our side that will come along on these spending bills and stuff that's got us in this budget mess. We got to look at that realistically, politically, how we flip the script to where when we're holding the reins, what are we going to do with it?
It's a good point.
Don't look. Yeah, don't look too far.
Because your two colleagues, Cheryl just reported, confirmed Jack Lew, right? There was a lot of pushback on Jack Lew being the ambassador to Israel. Cheryl Cassoni just reported that Lindsey Graham and Rand Paul voted yes.
I know, that's surprising. And one thing to note is on any of these endeavors, they stick together like glue. We always have folks that are not going to be in line, and that's how they generally keep controlling the agenda. They took COVID, went with it because it was a crisis. Look at the enterprising in terms of the inflation bomb, the sugar high economy. We had to help them on a lot of that stuff after the CARES Act, and look at the mess we've got. The border's in a mess, the economy's in a mess. We got a political platter that should be the best you could ever have, and we still seem to fumble the ball too often.
You're right. Senator, we're going to be watching your work, your colleagues' work, important work. We appreciate your time. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Senator Mike Braun in D.C. this morning. Quick break.